Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here. Today we're diving into the mind of one of the most exciting modern horror filmmakers working right now, Lee Cronin. If you're a fan of horror that actually gets under your skin, not just jump scares but the kind that lingers, then this is going to be a fascinating ride. Now, Lee Cronin didn't just appear out of nowhere. Like many great directors, he built his craft step by step. Before mainstream recognition, he worked on short films, slowly developing a voice that felt atmospheric, tense, and emotionally grounded. That's something I always find interesting, how some filmmakers seem to understand that horror isn't just about monsters. It's about mood. It's about silence. It's about that uncomfortable feeling that something is wrong, even before you know what it is. Have you ever watched a film where the tension builds so slowly that you don't even realize you're holding your breath? Cronin's breakout feature was The Hole in the Ground. And this wasn't your typical loud, chaotic horror movie. It was psychological. It centered on a mother who begins to suspect that her son isn't quite himself after a strange incident in the woods. On the surface, it sounds like a familiar horror premise. But what made it powerful was the emotional core, the fear of losing a child, the anxiety of motherhood, and the terrifying uncertainty of not knowing what's real. That's what elevates horror, isn't it? When the supernatural becomes a metaphor for something deeply human. What I love about The Hole in the Ground is how it plays with perception. It doesn't spoon-feed answers. It lets the dread simmer. And that's a bold move in an era where audiences are often used to fast pacing and constant stimulation. Cronin trusted viewers to sit in discomfort. And that tells you a lot about his confidence as a storyteller. Would you rather a movie explain everything neatly or leave you questioning what you just saw? Then came the major leap, being chosen to direct Evil Dead Rise. Now think about that for a second. The Evil Dead franchise is iconic. It started with Sam Raimi's original cult classic and became a cornerstone of horror cinema. Stepping into a franchise like that isn't just another job, it's stepping into history. Fans have expectations. Critics are watching. The pressure is real. But Cronin didn't try to copy what came before. Instead, he honored the spirit of the franchise while making it his own. Evil Dead Rise moved away from the traditional cabin-in-the-woods setting and placed the horror inside a claustrophobic apartment building. That shift alone made everything feel more immediate. There's something deeply unsettling about horror invading a space that feels familiar and domestic. After all, aren't our homes supposed to be our safe spaces? The film was intense, brutally so at times, but what stood out again was the emotional focus. It centered around family, particularly the bond between sisters and the vulnerability of children caught in chaos. The horror wasn't just external. It was relational. It made you care about the people involved. And when horror makes you care, the stakes skyrocket. Here's something worth thinking about. Why does horror continue to thrive decade after decade? Why do we willingly sit down to be scared? Maybe it's because horror gives us a safe space to confront fears we don't always talk about. Loss, isolation, guilt, powerlessness. Directors like Lee Cronin seem to understand that fear isn't just visual, it's emotional. Another thing that sets Cronin apart is his control of atmosphere. He uses sound and silence intentionally. Sometimes the scariest moment isn't when something jumps out at you, it's when the room goes quiet and you're waiting. That anticipation can be unbearable. Have you noticed how your imagination often fills in the gaps in ways that are scarier than anything shown on screen? And what's really exciting about Cronin's trajectory is that he represents a new generation of horror filmmakers who treat the genre seriously. Horror used to be dismissed as less prestigious than drama or historical epics. But now, filmmakers are using horror to explore identity, trauma, family dynamics, and social themes. Cronin fits right into that wave. He respects the genre, but he also expands it. There's also something admirable about how he balances homage and innovation. With Evil Dead Rise, he didn't erase the franchise's DNA. The intensity, the gore, the chaotic energy are still there, but he layered it with his own sensibility. That's not easy to do. It's like being handed a legendary band's guitar and being told, play something new, but don't disappoint the fans. How many artists can really pull that off? Looking ahead, it's fascinating to imagine where Lee Cronin might go next. Will he stick strictly to horror? Will he branch into psychological thrillers or even drama? Given how strongly he handles character-driven storytelling, it feels like he has the versatility to explore beyond pure horror while still keeping that edge. Sometimes the most interesting careers are the ones that evolve unpredictably. And maybe that's part of the broader conversation here. What does it take to stand out in a crowded creative industry? Talent, of course, but also perspective, voice, the ability to say something familiar in a way that feels new. Cronin's films may include possession, dread, and violence, but at their core, they're about human vulnerability. So let me ask you this. When you watch a horror movie, what scares you more, the supernatural threat or the emotional breakdown of relationships under pressure? Do you prefer slow-burning tension or relentless intensity? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely love to hear what kind of horror resonates with you. Lee Cronin's rise shows that modern horror is in good hands. It's evolving, experimenting, and digging deeper than ever before. And filmmakers like him remind us that fear can be art when crafted with intention. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Lee Cronin's career and creative style, go ahead and give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with a friend who loves horror movies or is curious about the minds behind the scares. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next exploration into the filmmakers shaping today's cinema. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.